So let me talk a little bit about systems, sustainability, and society. Very important, crucial point, which I don't think is new here, but for some people is a new idea. Society is fundamentally embedded in the natural systems on which it is entirely dependent. And by that, when I talk about natural systems or ecosystems, some people will say, oh, yes, there's a very nice forest over there, 3 kilometers. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where do the clothes you're wearing come from? What air are you breathing? What water are you drinking? Those are all part of the ecosystem on which we are dependent. Second, that societies define their relationship, what is valuable in the environment. It's not something that's given to us. We each in every environment, every culture, every context define that aspect in terms of our own societies. And sustainability therefore depends on how we define it. And what's important is the sense of agency and responsibility to act. By agency, I mean whether you feel you are capable of acting. That is not just, can you act, I mean, should you just do something, but do you feel you are able to, and are you able to actually perform what is needed to make change? And do you feel that you have a responsibility to do that? And those are critical here. And societies must, therefore, because of this rapid acceleration and change, we can't go by old rules. There is no textbook that says, here's what you do today, and if there's a new problem tomorrow, you go look in a different chapter of the textbook. Sorry, doesn't work. We need something else, so we need to be learning. We need a fundamental process of societal learning, co-design that is designed collaboratively, and innovation for societal well-being, not just innovation for cool products and good marketing. That's not sufficient. And that's a question of well-being and indeed even of survival of societies in this particular circumstance. So in a way, the key challenge that I'm interested in addressing is the way of changing collective human behavior rather than focusing on trying to fix what's already broken. We need to do that also, but we need to really figure out how we make these changes, fundamental changes. So it's about learning, innovating, negotiating, and navigating in a process of moving towards sustainable futures. In that, it's worth pointing out something about complexity, which again may be entirely familiar to everyone, but I want to put it there in front of us. There's a fundamental and inherent uncertainty, not because we're stupid or we can't do good science or we haven't done the science, but because a complex system has undefined causalities by necessity. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. I won't go into that now, but that we could discuss later. Second, there's normative ambiguity. That is, it matters, values matter. And people have different values, different cultures, different environments, different ethical standards, different norms. So there's a fundamental ambiguity in the way we define the goals and how we interpret what we see around us. That's an important point, is the interpretation. The data doesn't just get up and talk to us. We interpret data. It's like if you have a sheet of music and it's got 5 lines across it and a bunch of dots and lines on those dots and things on that line, and you pick up your violin and you play every note. You can play every note, but that's not interpreting. What makes music is the interpretation of that data, and that is no different than what science does. And third, there are unintended consequences, and that's because the feedback loops in a complex system are dispersed in time and space. So something I do here in Kyoto today maybe affects people in Kyoto today, but maybe it affects people in Bangladesh tomorrow or 10 years from now, or in the United States in 100 years or whatever. So we don't always know what the actual consequences are. And that affects how we get into problems of unintended consequences and unanticipated consequences, and we can think of lots of those. So given that, we need the perspectives and the methods of disciplines. You need the depth, and it's absolutely necessary, it's essential. We have the depth and breadth of knowledge from all the fields.
That microphone has something.
Oh.
So please change the microphone.
Yeah, it seems, no, it's going out. Thanks. I thought it sounded a little different. Okay. So the point is that we need the expertise and the narrow areas of focus of all the fields of disciplines that we know are absolutely essential, necessary, but they are not sufficient. They are not sufficient in and of themselves to solve the complex issues that we face. So we need a synthetic, a holistic, if you will, approach to science and to addressing these problems in the broadest sense, from global to local. And I would say that as part of that, we need to engage openly and respectfully with both the knowledge and the creativity of people all over the world. Oh my God, 3 minutes, never make it. Narratives are a lens with which to see this. This is ridiculous, but okay, we'll try. So I want to talk, one of the things is talking about narratives, and narratives are usually thought about as long stories, and humans have done this throughout their existence, but also that it's a question that they reflect both our vision of the future, but they also reflect identities. And identities are important because they have a lot to do with our motivation to act or oppose change. And I'll give you a couple quick examples. An indigenous artist's memorial to villages painted on the corner of his house and on the wall in front of it after landslides buried his community in Taiwan. Or Martin Luther King's famous talk. And what's interesting about this is it was a very long speech, very powerful, very beautiful, very moving, but what remains is this condensed little affective narrative, this emotional expression. I have a dream. And he repeated it. And it is that stays and powers people's reactions in many ways. Or a friend of mine, a wonderful colleague and friend, Cassie Mader, developed this choreography. It can be dance in that form. Or in a very negative sense, the campaign against Agenda 21, 2 states in the United States voted against sustainability in 2012. Believe it or not, they voted against sustainability, made it outlawed, not because of the science, not because of sustainability, but because of the idea of American individualism and the sense that this was a incursion on American freedom. And then, of course, we have this character, and I'm sorry for the misspelling, but by great, I think it means that rubs people the wrong way. So there are narratives that have power, and we need to tend to that. We have had a symposium in Taipei in September and early October looking at narratives from examples all over the world, and we will go on with that to categorize the narratives and use it to develop social modeling. I know the time's up, but give me a couple more minutes to finish. the idea is getting to to social dynamics from narratives. I'm going to skip this quickly because it just will take too much time. There's one other thing, is that the point is the modeling that we're trying to do, and I can talk about this more later, is about looking at plausible pathways to change, not about predicting. These are not predictive. They are meant as ways of increasing the creativity of our thinking. And that's a very important distinction here. And very briefly, we have a panel on Global Sustainability Strategy Forum that Ordwin Wren, Sander van der Leeuw, and myself are leading a new program. But looking at judgment of these sustainability of the processes, not just the solutions, and that's informed by, but not limited to, all the SDG indices and everything else that Michel and Gerald mentioned. And the real point is to try to make the thinking transparent. How are we thinking about those goals, and how are experts from all over the world, they're quite well distributed, approach this? So what's the focus on process that leads to solutions at multiple scales? How do we frame language that makes it better in terms of linking with policy challenges and linking processes with policy options? I think because of time, I'm going to just end with this last slide, that basically trying to look for motivation for change and process, and in that asking the question, why do we assume that stability is the normative expectation? We should really be thinking about how to change to strengthen adaptive capacity and agency, and to design forward with creativity and by learning from the past, not copying the past, and seek opportunities for constructive change and design, but also to build more effective ways to engage more people in the design process in the broadest sense, and in understanding their role in the complex system. I don't have time to show you the examples of games and so forth, but happy to talk about that maybe later. Thank you.